Okay, so today we are looking at Unit 3.2, which is organisational structures and different ways of working. We're going to start by looking at organisational structures. So an organisational chart is a way of displaying how people and departments are organised within a business. And it will look something like this. I want you to ignore everything else that I've got going on here. I just want you to be focusing on this for now. So this is an organisation chart. The departments in an organisation are organised by function. So you might not be able to read it, but this says finance director, this says marketing director, this is sales director, and this is head of HR. So each department has a specific job to do, and there is a person at the top who is in charge of each department. There are layers in organisational charts. The higher layers have more responsibility and authority, the power to make decisions and tell people what to do. So this person has authority over these people have authority over these people have authority over these people. The higher up, the more power they've got. Ultimately, this guy or girl has power over all of them. But the higher you are, the more powerful you are. There is a chain of command. This is an important key word, chain of command. Those at the top of the hierarchy are able to send instructions to those lower down. So the chain of command goes from this guy to this guy to this guy to this guy to this guy. That is a chain of command going down. Things can be passed down. That creates a line of communication. So the communication happens both down or up. If this person wants to get a message to their director, they're going to have to pass it to that person and that person before it gets to the marketing director. Very rarely can you just jump from there to there. The line manager is the person a worker is directly responsible to. So for example's sake, this person's line manager is this person. This person's line manager is this person. Subordinates are the workers someone is responsible for. So this person has got a lot of subordinates. All of these people work for that person. Span of control is the number of subordinates a manager is responsible for. So going back to this manager, their span of control is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 workers. They've got 8 subordinates under them. Their span of control is 8. Delegation is the act of giving another person a specific responsibility for doing something. So this person could say, you know what, I really just don't want to be in charge of setting the induction training for our new staff members. So I'm going to give that to this person. I'm going to delegate my task to that person below me, that subordinate. The last keyword that you need to understand, 2 keywords, are tall and flat structures. So tall structures have lots of layers. Generally that means they have a narrower span of control. Each person only has a few people they're responsible for. This is a tall structure. Flat structures have fewer layers. So you can see this one only has 3 layers. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers at its biggest. In a flat structure, communication can often be quicker. There's usually fewer mistakes in communication because there's fewer layers for it to go through. And people at the bottom are likely to have better relationships with people at the top because they're closer to them. They probably see more of them. There's more delegation in here and there's shared authority, which makes people feel trusted. It can be motivational. However, in a flat structure, there can often be wider spans of control. So it may happen that there are more people on each layer than on this tall structure. So this is flat. This is tall. Tall structures generally have a narrower span of control, which means that there are lots of opportunities for promotion. Because there's lots of layers, you've got lots of steps to work your way up. It's not just going straight into director position, there's positions to go to before you become a director. So that's really cool. There's a reason that people create organisational charts. People create these for their organisations. They spend time and money on getting these designed. But why? It's because there's lots of benefits. They show who is responsible for what specific tasks and responsibilities? That's really handy if something goes wrong, because there's accountability. I've not done very well there. Abilities, responsibilities. For example's sake, if we go back to this guy, he has been delegated induction training by this guy. This guy said, I don't want induction training anymore, I'm going to give it to you. So it's been delegated down. However, if induction training goes wrong, if there's some sort of error with it, he is still responsible for it. He is his line manager. So it can be seen in the organisational structure, actually, that as his line manager, he should have supported him better on that and taught him better how to do induction training. So there's always that accountability. Shows what a person is responsible for. Shows which work is delegated to who. Like we just discussed. Shows who a manager is managed, who a worker is managed by. And from whom they must take orders. Shows lines of communication. And shows department links. So like I just showed you, it's really important when something goes wrong that we know all of that information so that we can trace back who is accountable. However, it's also really handy for when you're new to a company, because if you come into a company and you're this guy, this department is sales department. So for example, say if you work in a car firm, you are a car salesman down here. You need to know how your lines of communication work, how you can get messages up to the top. You need to know who you're going to be told to do stuff by. You need to know where to go to get information on HR, who you need to go in that department, how you get your communication across there. You need to know who you need to speak to in finance, all that sort of thing. And this is really clearly laid out for you when you're new to the business. So that's organisational charts. Now we need to talk about different ways of working. We're going to look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways of working. So let's try and divide this up into 6, roughly. This one is like quite a big box, so I'm going to start here. This is full-time or part-time working. We're going to put them together in one. It's generally thought that full-time work is when a person works 34 hours a week or more. There's a big growth in part-time working, particularly through 0-hour contracts, which I'll talk about in a minute. This is likely to continue to increase as we come out of the COVID lockdown, because part-time workers are generally cheaper. Part-time working suits people who need regular hours to look after family and pick up children, that sort of thing. Part-time also suits semi-retired people and students. Because they're working around something else. They're working around their retirement time, they're working around schoolwork, uni work, whatever it is they're doing. Businesses have more choice when recruiting and can respond to demand by combining full-time and part-time work. They know that they've got full-time work on hand for their stable shifts. They know that every single lunchtime, every single day in their restaurant, they're going to need workers. But then they can have part-time shifts for busy Saturday shifts, that sort of thing. Part-time and 0 hours work means less pay for workers, obviously. They're not working full-time work, so they're not going to get paid a full-time salary. And the hours can be inconvenient because they're usually when the business is busier, for example, Saturday nights, they're usually antisocial hours. If a company decides to recruit more part-time workers than full-time workers, it might be that the work is there for full-time workers, but they just want to employ lots of part-time workers. That can result in high recruitment and training costs, obviously, because you've got more people to employ. Next up, we're going to go flexible. We'll put that up here. Zero-hours contracts are considered flexible working. Zero-hour contracts are where the worker is given a contract with 0 hours, so they are told you have absolutely 0 guaranteed hours for working. However, the company can call on you at any time and offer you a shift. So it's really, really flexible for the employee, because if they're offered a shift, they can say no if it doesn't suit them. It's really, really flexible for the employer, because they haven't got to pay anybody unless they need them. However, if they do need employees and the employees say no, they could be left short-staffed. So swings and roundabouts there. Flexible working also includes working from home, part-time. So if you are told, yeah, you can work from home on Mondays and Wednesdays, or you can work from home on the days that you haven't got meetings, that sort of thing, that's flexible working. Working flexi time. Flexi time is where you're told, okay, you've got to do 35 hours per week, but you can do it in any time that suits you. So you can do 9 hours on Monday, 8 hours on Tuesday, 7 hours on Wednesday, whatever suits you. You're given that creative freedom. However, there can be some restrictions on that. Some employers might say, yep, you can do flexi time, but it has to be between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. You can't work night shifts. And lastly, shift working. Shift working is where you are set shifts, but they can change week by week. So you might be told 1 week you're on 10 till 6, next week you're on 7 till 1. Next up, we are going to look at temporary. That's supposed to be a T, not an F. Or casual labour, it's sometimes called. So I'm going to put that in there as well. Temporary work or casual labour. This is short term, usually on fixed term contracts. So, okay, you're going to work for us, but you're only going to work for us for 6 weeks. Okay, you're going to work for us, but you're only going to work for us for the summer holidays. Common in seasonal industries, so fruit picking in the summer, Father Christmases in department stores in the winter, that sort of thing. Basically, companies are only employing people when they are needed, so it is quite cost effective. There would be no point in paying Father Christmases all year round. However, if they need more workers than they thought, they might not be able to get people quick enough, which can lead to staff shortages. So if you own an ice cream shop and you predict it's going to be quite busy in the summer, you might employ a few people on a short-term contract. However, if it's busier than you thought, it might be hard to get more people on short notice. Because they're only short-term contracts, training times might be limited. People might not be willing to dedicate lots of time to training. So it's usually best suited to unskilled work. You can't ask people to train for 6 months for a 6-week contract. It's common to use recruitment agencies to do this, or even employment agencies. We'll discuss them in a later unit. And there's no job security. You haven't got that kind of permanent fixed term part-time contract, full-time part-time contract. You're only given work for a short amount of time. Working from home. I'm going to put working from home. This is increasing more and more and will do post-COVID as companies work out that actually people can be as effective at home and they don't have to pay for the office space. Workers can work longer also if they're not commuting. If people are spending 2 hours of their day commuting, where they could spend 2 hours of that day just sat at home doing that work, obviously they're going to be more efficient. They may be more motivated if they're given that trust to work from home, and they may have fewer distractions outside of the office because they're not with their friends, that sort of thing. However, that can work in the opposite way. It depends on the person. Working from home doesn't work for everybody. Some people struggle to be self-motivated. Some people need the discipline of being in the workplace. We can only do this thanks to technology. However, technology comes at a cost. If you're having to send out laptops and computers to all of your workers, that's a cost. If you're having to train people how to use technology, that's a cost. If you're having to increase your ICT department, that's a cost. So whilst it might save you money on office space, you might have increased technology costs. Workers might save money by not commuting, which is going to make them feel like they're getting paid more, which is really, really good. So that saves them money and it saves them time. I'm not going to do a very good clock there. That's a clock. They may feel less stressed because they're saving that money and that time, so it may improve their well-being. However, some workers may miss the social side of working with others and being in that office environment. 2 more to cover. Working whilst mobile. Working whilst mobile basically just means working whilst you're on the move. So while they're not at their place of work, for example, on the train whilst commuting. This is only possible thanks to technology as well, which, the same as before, has a cost implication, potentially a time implication, if you're having to train people. It can improve productivity because people are spending their commuting time, their moving time, working. And workers are given the flexibility to work where they see fit, which is only going to motivate them. If they're given that responsibility, that trust, that's going to be motivational. If they can continue working whilst they're travelling, it obviously increases their productivity, it's more efficient, which basically increases the business's competitiveness. They're going to be able to produce more work and compete better. Lastly, self-employment. Self-employment is where you work for yourself, and many people like being their own boss. Some people really struggle to be told what to do. When you're self-employed, there is the opportunity to work hard and earn good money, and generally the harder you work, the more money you're able to earn. However, there are no employment rights. Because you're self-employed, you're your own boss, you don't get any employment rights or benefits, like pension contributions, holiday pay, sick pay. All of those good things you don't get. You often have to work longer hours as well because you're not going to switch off. You're going to keep working. You want to keep working because you want to earn more money and be successful, but that can have an implication on your health and your well-being. And there's less financial security. There's no guarantee that you're going to get paid at the end of every month, basically, which can be quite scary for some people. So that was a bit waffly, but hopefully that makes it clear. You've got organisational structures there and the benefits of organisational charts and the different ways of working. This unit is basically lots and lots of keywords, so you need to make sure that you've created your keyword flashcards.